Alright, so a couple videos back, I asked y'all if y'all wanted an updated video on the arrangement video that I did like 8-9 months ago, something like that. When I uploaded that video and asked y'all that question, man, y'all probably left over 50 comments asking me to do an updated arrangement tutorial. So that's what we're doing today, man. Y'all make sure to get y'all pens and papers and notebooks out, because y'all probably won't see another updated arrangement tutorial in the following 8 months, man. Let's get right into it. So for today's video, man, I wanted it to be as raw as possible, so I didn't really prepare too much. I wrote some stuff down, but not too much. I'm just gonna be explaining my knowledge, my experience when arranging beats, shit I think of, and the way I think when arranging it. So I got an 8-bar melody laid out right here. Also laid out the drums already. So I'm just gonna be arranging it. I'm not gonna lay any drums or melodies down in today's video. This is what the melody sounds like by itself. By the way, for the people watching who voted on my poll that I posted on my community page a few days back, y'all know that I'm working on my biggest and best kit right now. It's gonna be a sample making collection. I got it pulled up right here. It's gonna be called the Full Circle Collection, and it's gonna have 3 individual libraries in it: the phrases and percussion library, pianos and keys library, and the synths and strings library. Don't worry, the 3 libraries are also gonna be sold individually, but if you decide to purchase the bundle, the full collection, it's gonna also come with some bonuses. I got 1 bonus finished, and it's a sample library right here, and this sample that I'm gonna be arranging today is also in that sample library. This one right here. So with 90% of my beats, I will start out with the sample and arrange it before I lay down the drums. So I lay down the sample like this, as I did right here in the 8 bars, then I copy it over, arrange it, and then lay the drums down. Because in my opinion, you get a better image of what the beat's gonna sound like if you arrange the melody first, instead of just looping the 8 bars, 8 bars, 8 bars, and just laying down the drums like that. It's way better to do it when arranging the melody first. But before I arrange the melody, I always like to add one more step to it. Might be because of my workflow, might be because I like to stay organized, but I always like to rename every single track, like I said, just to keep things organized. So that's what I'm gonna do real quick. I'm gonna listen to the individual tracks like this. I'm gonna call that vintage piano. Hot piano notes. Violin. Bell accent. That's it. Like I said, this helps to stay organized, but it also helps for an engineer. Let's say you render out every single track and send it over to an engineer to get it mixed. The engineer already got every single track labeled. You feel me? So every single individual stem, he already got the labels on it, so it's way easier to mix and know what it is. And same goes for the drums, but I'll get into that later. First thing I always do when arranging a melody, I always like to copy it over a bunch of times. You feel me? So cut the first part out, and the first 8 bars, I always dedicate that to the intro. And the first 8 bars in the intro, you really want to catch the listener's ear. You feel me? If you only start out with some boring sounds in the intro, a listener will probably click off and listen to another beat or another song. So I always like to have the most interesting parts of the sample being played in the first 8 bars in the intro. Now for this sample, I think the piano sounds cool. Maybe with the flute. Bringing this accent. The high piano notes. It already introduces 1, 2, 3, 4 sounds, you feel me? But you also want to make sure that you don't introduce all the sounds already. To keep it organized, I'm gonna add these labels to it. Rename this to intro. Right here, after the intro, I always like to get into the hook. So right now I got an 8-bar intro, but you can also have a 16-bar intro, for example. Let's say you add a sub bass to the sample. You can let the sub bass come in right here at the second part of the intro. Kind of builds a little bit more tension, but for this melody, I think it's right to have 8 bars as an intro. So after the intro, you get into the hook, and that's usually the most catchy part of a song, like where the artist really lays down a catchy part that gets stuck in the listener's head. You feel me? So when arranging the hook, I always like to have my hook set to 16 bars. So that's 2 more copies of the intro right here. These are just guidelines, you feel me? Like you can have your hook set to 8 bars if you want to. Like it's no rules. And when arranging the hook, I always like to go from top to bottom. So I'm gonna start out with the piano and think if I want to use the piano in the hook. And in my opinion, since the piano is the coolest, strongest part in this sample, I'm just copy it over throughout the 16 bars and just have the piano play throughout the whole hook. And to kind of switch it up in the first 8 bars, I think I want to bring in the violin since I didn't use the violin in the intro. So it's going to switch it up a little bit. Just introduces a new sound, you feel me? And I think that's gonna be all the sounds that I introduced in the first 8 bars. So I'm gonna introduce some more in the second 8 bars to kind of build it up a little bit. And for the second 8 bars, I'm gonna introduce the high piano notes, the flute. I'm gonna also copy over the violin, introduce the strings, and bring back this bell accent, just to kind of build it up, like I said. And don't just follow what I'm doing, because with some samples, it would get too busy if you just got all the melodies playing. But in this melody, I left a lot of pockets. So for example, right here, only the violin is playing. Right here, only the flute is playing. And right here, only the piano notes are playing. So there's still some gaps, still some room for the drums, you feel me? So now that the hook is done right here, I'm gonna cut these parts out, and I'm gonna start out on the verse right here. And for the people who don't know what a verse is, an artist usually uses the verse to really get some lyrics across. So for the verse, I'm gonna have it set to 16 bars as well, but it really depends on what kind of artist you're sending the beats to. If you're working with a very lyrical artist, you want to have a longer verse, but if you're working with a more melodic artist, you want to have a longer hook. But a 16 bar hook and 16 bar verse is always a safe route. So I'm gonna copy the piano over like this, since I like how the piano sounds. Is the main melody of the sample. And for the other melodies in the verse, I kind of do the opposite as I did in the hook. I always like to start out a little bit more busy in the first 8 bars of the verse, and then get it a little bit less busy in the second 8 bars. So I know that in the last 8 bars of the verse, I want to leave a lot of space for the artist, so I'm just gonna have the piano playing. But for the first 8 bars, I'm gonna introduce the high piano notes. Let's go for the strings as well. Really transitions nicely. Just the piano. That's it for the verse. So after the verse, you could decide to bring the hook back in or extend the verse a little bit, but a thing that I always like to do is add a little bridge to it, like where everything kind of slows down a little bit to get into the hook. And it's just gonna be 8 bars, just a moment without drums, only the melody playing, where everything kind of slows down, like I said. For that bridge, of course, I want to have the piano playing. Let's bring the strings back in. The flute. Like this, leave the violin out to kind of do the same as we did in the intro, so the violin comes back into the hook, kind of introduces something new. And what we got right here in front of us is really the blueprint of the entire beat. Like, we're gonna arrange the drums based on this, so we can cut this part out and duplicate it over how many times we want, depending on how long we want the beat to be. So I'm gonna just leave it like this, and after laying down the drums, we can copy it over, like I said. So after that, we can get into the drum arrangement. And before arranging the drums, once again, to stay organized, I always like to kind of organize the drum sounds a little bit. Think of an order that works well for you. I always like to have my 808s on top, next hi-hat, snare, clap, open hats, and then some percussion at the bottom right here. So I'm gonna drag it into the playlist. Next, I'm gonna copy it over like this, and we're gonna go from top to bottom once again, starting with the 808, thinking of where in the beat you want your 808s to hit, and we're gonna go from top to bottom, like I said. After this beat, we got 2 different 808 patterns. Switch up right here. So I'm gonna think of where I want the 808 to switch. So I'm thinking, since we're already doing a lot with the melodies right here, I'm gonna just keep the 808 simple, just so it's not too overwhelming. And then at the second part of the verse, where it's only 1 melody, I think I'm gonna switch to 808 up there. So like I said, from top to bottom, 808 is done. Next, I'm gonna get into the hi-hats and the snares. And these are essential, so you just want to leave them in throughout the hook and the verse. You could do different, but I just like to have the hi-hat and the snare playing throughout the entire beat, since in my opinion it's an essential sound. So lastly, for the open hats and the counter snares, you really want to do the same as I did with the melody right here. Really want the hook to be the busiest part of your beat, and the verse be the least busy part of your beat. So I'm gonna do the same to these open hats and counter snares. So for the open hats, we got 2 different ones. So I'm gonna keep this main open hat playing throughout the entire hook and the first 8 bars of the verse. On this open hat right here, I'm gonna just have it play in the second part of the hook. This is the busiest part of the beat. And for the counter snare, I want to introduce that in the second part of the hook as well. So for the drum arrangement, that is pretty much it. I always like to separate it a little bit from the melody, just to keep it organized once again. So now that we arrange the sample and the drums, we can get into the most fun part of arranging the beat, what really makes the arrangement stand out from other beats, and that is chopping the patterns up with this slice tool right here. And you can really go crazy with chopping shit up. You can chop these 808s out right here, cut out the hi-hat. I think I'm gonna cut out the hi-hats right here. Right here, chop it up. Really brings back more energy, you feel me? Do the same right here. Yeah, that's hard. Next, for the second part of the hook, you can add all sorts of transitions, rises, and all that shit, but in my opinion, chopping shit up just works way better. And for the second part of the hook, like I said, I think I'm gonna cut the hi-hats out. At the last part, cut the 808 out. Really lets the listener know, or the artist know, that a transition is coming up, you feel me? And for the beginning of the verse, I always like to cut the 808 out of the first part. Cut the hi-hats out as well. Feel me? That's a lot more bounce to it. Yeah. Sounds a lot better than just bringing the 808 and the hi-hat back in like at the beginning. Do the same right here. Cut these hi-hats out. Now the 808 switch up. It's tough. Maybe make the same cut right here. Yeah. Cut the snare out. cut the snare out as well right here. And after chopping everything up, you can decide how long you want your beat to be. So you can have your beat be 1 minute and 12 seconds or 20 minutes, for example. I wouldn't really recommend going over 3 minutes because most of the time when I send out beats that are over 3 minutes, the artist usually cuts the beat short. So I would stick to 2 minutes 15. And that's fairly simple. Just copy everything over like this. And that is 2 minutes 12. That's perfect. And the last 8 bars of the beat right here are usually dedicated to the outro. So you could decide just to have it play like this, maybe switch it up a little bit, just have the piano play. Or you can decide to bring the drums in once again like this for the outro. I always like to just have the melody playing by itself, just kind of fade it out. So add the strings to it. It's very calm, like a calm outro. That's it. And if you made it to this part of arranging your beat, that's pretty much 99% done. You feel me? Like 99% of the time when I laid out a beat like this, I just render it out and that's it. But of course, if you want to add transitions, risers, tape stops, all that shit to it, this is the time you do that. For example, you can add a transition right here. From the hook to the verse. From the verse to the bridge. Kind of enhances the transition a little bit. I don't really do this too often, but it's up to y'all, man, to experiment with tape stops, risers, transitions, cuts, all that shit. And that's pretty much it for the updated arrangement tutorial, man. And to the people who are still struggling with arranging their beats before watching this video, I hope this video helped y'all out, man. If it did, make sure to let me know in the comments down below. I read every single comment. And just like this video, if you have any future video ideas or things you want to see me do on the channel, also make sure to let me know in the comments down below. I want to thank y'all for watching the video all the way to the end. We're this close on hitting 37K on the channel, so don't forget to subscribe, follow me on Instagram, like the video, all that stuff. If you like the drum kits that I used in today's video, make sure to check it out. I'm having a link down, the first link down in the description. And that's pretty much all I have for today's video, man. So I'm gonna catch you on the next one. I'm out.